All right, we begin with this story from the ongoing Africa Development Bank meetings here in Accra. The Africa Investment Forum is seeking investment partners to undertake critical health infrastructure projects in Ghana and other parts of the continent before the end of the year. The move is aimed at ensuring that infrastructure deficit, which has been a challenge on the continent, is curtailed. As part of the Africa Development Bank annual meetings, the Africa Investment Forum, which is another arm of the bank, has been engaging some investors to figure out ways of undertaking some of the projects. Here's Senior Director at the forum, Chinolo Anuho, speaking to Joy Business after one of the engagements in Accra.
Actually, stakeholder it's a multidisciplinary. So the projects that we deal with cover the critical aspects where the challenges remain on the continent. And we're in Ghana, for instance, and we have a history of investments with Ghana. We've done, incidentally, one of our flagship projects was the Cocoa Board, where the president of Ghana was actually present in the boardrooms and shepherded it to what we have today. So the projects that we're targeting cut across different sectors. We have the healthcare, which is one of the projects that actually based here in Ghana on our platform, and we're inviting investors to join the project sponsors who have already raised some level of equity to bring it to fruition. It's something that, on the level of information, it's the Lagos-Abidjan Highway, and it's one of our flagship projects. And this project has been long on board. And what we're doing on the African Investment Forum is to push it forward, to make sure we accelerate both the implementation time, the tender periods, to ensure that this very laudable project, it's a $15 billion project, and it costs across 5 countries. And it's amazing the impact that will happen across the continent when it's standing. So part of the work the Africa Investment Forum is focusing on is to ensure that we bring the necessary critical elements to ensure that this is done in a timely manner. So yes, it's something we're proud of, and President Additional in establishing the Africa Investment Forum also looked at the whole transport sector gamut of the continent, because you've just talked about the Lagos-Abidjan Highway. We have the East Central Railway project. We have a cable car project. What we're looking to do is to focus and put the power of the platform behind these sectors that will completely transform the transport sector of the continent.
If the AIF is to, get investment for the Lagos-Abidjan Highway, what timelines are you considering?
That's what I just said. We're hoping we have a 2-3 year ambitious project to make sure it gets off the ground. But there's a lot of work in between, and what we're working on, it's not necessarily putting a timeline, but to ensure that the milestones are met as and when due, to ensure that this is going in accordance with plan. It's also not going to happen overnight, and it will be completely naive to think that we'll build this. But what is important is to have a plan, and if it's a 3-year, 5-year plan, the focus is on milestones being met. If it's quarterly, 6-monthly, to ensure that you're on target.
And we'll be talking more about the AFDB meetings in the course of this bulletin. Hopefully, we would have Professor Kevin Chika Uruma, Acting Chief Economist with the AFDB, to join us, discuss some of the highlights of the conference, the week-long conference here in Accra, and the takeaways. Turning next to one of our top stories this afternoon, the plight of gig workers, especially on digital labor platforms. Now, last year, Fair Work Ghana evaluated the working conditions in 10 of the most popular digital platforms, including Uber, Bolt, Yango, Jumia Food, Glovo, against 5 global principles of fair work. Those include fair pay, fair conditions, fair contracts, proper management, and fair representation. It discovered that though Ghana has witnessed a rapid growth of the platform and its associated employment opportunities for thousands of citizens, existing labor laws do not adequately protect these workers who work mainly with ride-hailing and delivery apps. Now, as part of this continuous efforts to map out Ghana's experience in work within the digital platforms and the gig economy, Fair Ghana has been holding a stakeholders workshop I'm joined by Dr. Joseph Budu, who is country manager for Fair Work Ghana, and Francis Tinge, also president, Ghana Online Drivers Union. Great to have you both on the program. So I want to start first with you, Dr. Budu, to just give us an overview of your report. I believe it has been launched on the working conditions of gig workers here in the country. Can you hear me, Dr. Budu?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Good afternoon to our listeners. So our report, which we launched last year, tells us about the working conditions of platform workers or online workers in Ghana. And it's a way to expose the precarious nature of the work that these online workers do, and to show that there's more that the platforms can do in order to ensure that these workers at least earn a living wage, at least have better working conditions, so that the government's vision of improving employment or finding opportunity for unemployed youths will be realized or achieved. Thank you.
Okay, and so I want to talk to you, Francis, next about your working conditions, because over the past few months, we've seen hill riders complain about their working conditions. You even threatened a strike. I don't know how successful that was, but generally, how would you describe your working conditions?
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. Fairly, I would say our working conditions is no good. I'll rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. I would say 3, because we have so long hours of working, and that puts so much pressure on us. So as drivers, we work under pressure just to meet bonuses and then weekly sales for our car owners. Currently, we, the drivers, are not being recognized by our platform workers as providers as workers. Our car owners are also not paying us. So the only thing we survive on is the bonuses and then 20 cedis for working for 6 weeks.
Having an issue with your network there, Francis, can you hear me still? Can you hear me still, Francis? Well, while we sort out the connection to Francis, you heard him, Dr. Budu, talk about the working conditions. My concern is why it's difficult to sort of regulate the operations here in the country. Dr. Budu, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
That question was for you.
Oh, sorry. Please, what was it?
So I was asking, I mean, based on what Francis has been telling us about the working conditions and how that needs improvement, why is it difficult to sort of streamline the operations here in the country to have somebody regulate what they do and ensure that they are getting, fair attention when it comes to the what kind of work that they do?
Okay, thank you very much. So I think the first thing has to do with the platforms. The platforms are not recognizing them as employees. They are seeing them as third-party consultants. And unfortunately for us, the regulations or the labor laws in Ghana hasn't also been expanded to cover this online work. So there's the law people will say a lacuna, so which is being exploited by the platforms. So unless somebody takes charge and to say that no, these people are truly employees, these people should be recognized as workers, that room will be there for exploitation. I think that's a fundamental issue that has to be addressed, and everything else will begin to fall into play.
I know you guys have made a push in the past to get authorities, for instance, the Ministry of Transport to come to deal with some of your matters. How far have you gone to speak with authorities to get them to pay attention to your concerns?
So currently we are working with the
That question was
labor.
meant for Francis. I don't know if he's still on. Are you on, Francis?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Your response to that?
Yes. Unfortunately, for the last 5 years, the authorities have not really been fair to us. Now we have the TUC and Fair Work Ghana coming on board to support us. So we have the Department of Labor and the Ministry of Employment who have also come on board to help us. So we are hopefully that we learned today the Minister for Transport has traveled. So we are just hoping that when he returns, everything will be okay.
And Dr. Budu, you have been meeting with various stakeholders. Today you had a workshop. What do you hope would be the outcome of your engagements? I mean, what are some of the things you're pushing for to protect these workers, and how soon do you think we can begin to see results?
Thank you very much. So in today's workshop, for instance, we had representation from the Ghana Labor Office. So we are hoping that we are going to work with one consultant or various spaces to develop a policy brief which would inform the review of the Ghana labor law. So we hope that once we get this issue addressed by the laws of Ghana, we can have a more legal ground to pursue further action. On the other hand, some platforms we need to recognize are taking good initiatives. Some platforms have realized that, for instance, they have to recognize the drivers or the workers as a union. So one platform, for instance, is going to sign a memorandum of understanding with one union, that's with the various unions in the country. And then I think it will motivate other platforms to also do the same.
Just out of curiosity and for the benefit of our audience, if you could do that in a minute for us, what is the practice in the Western countries where, I mean, some of these online platforms started?
Okay, so the very basic condition for Uber, I know in the US, is that the service charge is 20%, 20% service charge. As at about 2 months ago, Uber service charge was 25%. Okay, so that is a very basic difference when it comes to service charge. Currently, both is 25% as well. So even that alone is a very big difference that when it comes to Western countries.
Okay, and I'll conclude with you, Francis. In the past, and like I mentioned, you guys have threatened to go on strike. You even tried it. I don't think it worked. Would you still embark on a strike to press home your demands? Is that something that you intend to do? I mean, going forward, how do you intend to deal with your issues?
No, for now, we've hold on organizing strike. Our last meeting with both asked us to give them 2 months. That is ending of June. Okay, so we are giving them that grace period. If nothing is happening, then we will see our next way of action. We are also looking at possible switching on to a local app. If they are ready to help us, why not? So we'll try and then consider that option.
Grateful for your time, Dr. Joseph Budu, who is country manager for Fair Work Ghana, and also Francis Tenge, who is president of the Ghana Online Drivers Union. Wish you all the best in your deliberations and your engagements. Now, turning to other news, the Ghana Cocoa Board has announced the closure of the main crop season. The main crop season, which starts from October to May, is the period within which the regulator buys most of the cocoa beans from the farmers for export. This ushers in the light crop season, which commences from June to September. Now, during the season, cocoa beans are mainly sold to local companies at a discounted rate. A statement from Cocoa Board said licensed buying companies will be allowed to obtain returns for the sale of cocoa beans from the interior parts of the country until the 2nd of June 2022. All right, from cocoa, let's talk fish. We are receiving data from the Ghana Chamber of Aquaculture on the prices of tilapia and catfish as you plan to shop this weekend. In the course of time, we'll show you on your screen the prices of tilapia, which have been fairly stable in the first quarter of 2022. Catfish adding 3 cedis on the average, but that's an assessment based on the first quarter of this year compared with the first quarter of last year. And depending on who you're going to buy, the prices may vary. Joining me is Jacob Ajika, who is Chief Executive of the Chamber of Aquaculture. This is important because people will be shopping this weekend, so they want to have a fair idea what they'll be buying from the market. So, like I pointed out, these figures are average figures. They could be higher depending on where you're buying your tilapia from. But generally, what's been the trend?
Well, good afternoon to your viewers. The trend is that the prices have been fairly stable until recently. It started going up as a result of shortage in raw materials, specifically maize and soya, locally and at the global market as well. As we speak, the feed producers are struggling to have access to their major raw materials that is needed to produce fish feed. As a result of that, over the past week, we've seen some slight increase in prices. However, we anticipate that in the next quarter, these prices are likely to go up at least up to 23% due to continuous increase in the cost of raw materials for these feed producers.
Well, feed has been a major problem over the years. Now that we are seeing prices of items rise substantially, how is that impacting on fish farmers? I know for the poultry farmers, they have really complained about its impact and how it's affecting the sector. What's your experience?
Well, our fish farmers are really struggling as well because, the prices for the feed and other inputs keep on changing almost every week. So the prices that is prevailing for inputs for this particular week is likely to even change again. And when you try to ascertain the cost, everything points to the cost of fish feed. The feed producers are complaining about not having access to their key raw materials on time, and they're also complaining about the depreciation of the cedi against the USD because some of their raw materials are imported. And figures or the prices somewhere last year is not the same as of today. It has changed significantly. Then, of course, the import duties at the port has also gone up. So because of these three factors, the feed producers keep on changing their prices almost every month. So it's a very difficult moment for fish farmers. And most of them, I know for sure, they are just trying hard to keep their heads above water for now. So that is the situation as we speak.
Well, on a positive note, the fishing subsector recorded the highest year-on-year growth rate of 13.4%, according to the figures from the Ghana Statistical Service for 2021. Did we see that reflect in the aquaculture space? How well are you doing?
Well, the aquaculture sector, we can say that we've seen little increase in our production, largely because the disease situation that was causing a lot of negative effects on aquaculture production is quite stable now. So the biggest challenge we have now is related to the high cost of feed. So I can speak reference to data available from the Fisheries Commission. Things are a little stable. However, the industry can do more because when you look at our ecosystem, we should be able to produce a lot of fish, up to over 120 metric tons per annum. But at the moment, we're doing around 4 metric tons. So we can still do more. There is opportunity to increase our production.
All right. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Jacob Ajika, who is CEO of the Chamber of Aquaculture. We want to turn to the AFDB meetings underway here in Accra. Like I pointed out, today would be the closing ceremony for the week-long conference, which has highlighted the continent's climate change issues as well as energy transition matters. Joining me via Zoom is Professor Kevin Chika Urama, who is the Acting Chief Economist and Vice President for Economic Governance and Knowledge Management with the Africa Development Bank. I appreciate your time with us this afternoon. I want to ask, first of all, your impression about this year's annual meetings. Have the outcomes been satisfactory?
Thank you very much for having me. First, I'd like to say the annual meetings has been impressive. The hospitality of the Republic of Ghana has been really first class. So I'd like to thank the President of Ghana and our Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, for the hospitality that's been accorded to all the delegates here. And in terms of the content of the annual meetings, both the statutory meetings and the knowledge events that we've held at the annual meetings have really gone very well. As you know, we focused on supporting climate resilience and a just energy transitions for Africa. And within the annual meetings, we have launched the Africa Economic Outlook Report that comes up with a lot of evidence on how Africa can triangulate those three issues of climate resilience, access to energy, and economic growth. These are crucial, and it provides a way forward for Africa in this area.
And also, aside from the climate change challenges and energy transition, the African Development Bank has been concerned about averting a food crisis here on the continent. We saw at the beginning of the event that the bank had devoted an amount to support farmers across the continent. Tell us about that.
Yeah, thank you very much. The African Development Bank Group mobilized a facility of 1.5 billion US dollars to support countries to boost productivity by providing technologies for agriculture, new improved seed varieties, improved fertilizer access to fertilizer, and all the other things we need in order to improve our productivity on the continent. Are you still hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. And then there was this issue about the Bretton Woods institutions and how they have taken over development on the African continent, and suggestions that the Africa Development Bank can do more. Your take on that, and how can the bank be equipped to do more?
Now, the current global financial architecture was crafted in the post-Second World War era to address the issues of development that was pertinent in those days. And you can agree with me, this has served the world very well for over 40 years, now getting to 50 years. So we see globally, not just for Africa, but everywhere else, that there is need for us to review and rethink how we are doing development, how financial flows happens. For example, in the focus of these annual meetings, we find that climate finance is not flowing to areas of need because they are more vulnerable, they have lack of institutional capacity to provide bankable projects and so on. So if we are to achieve the global sustainable development goals of leaving no one behind, we need to think of a global financing architecture that prioritizes that objective of not leaving anyone behind. And that means that we'll have an architecture that will prioritize, that is pro-poor and is able to pull people out of poverty and not leave people out of poverty. So we're not saying that the global financing architecture is wrong, but we're saying maybe it's time for us to look at it again and see how we need to improve it in order to improve the huge benefits that it has brought to the world. Thousands, millions and millions of people have already been lifted out of poverty during the period, thanks to the architecture that we have now.
Okay, and the president, our president, Akufo-Addo, calling for a model, an economic model that works for Africa. You released the Africa Economic Outlook Report, which you mentioned. Just let us know what the forecast is generally for economies around the world, bearing in mind what is happening globally, the conflict in Eastern Europe. We are having fuel prices go up, food prices going up. There's the fears of a shortage actually as well. What's your outlook for African economies?
The outlook for African economies has some positives in the sense that after the global recession we saw in 2020, Africa was hit just like every other region, and we saw a contraction of 1.6% in gross domestic product. But in 2021, we saw a big rebound up to 6.9%. across the continent on average. But then because of the global headwinds that we're having coming in succession, we have climate adaptation and mitigation costs that continues. We still have the COVID costs that still continues to be a drag on fiscal space of countries. But now the Russia-Ukraine war has come in and also increased food prices, energy prices, and inflation is getting over the roof. So what we're saying in the report is that we need to look for development paradigms that tries to bring all this together in order to build an inclusive and a more sustainable development to prepare Africa for adapting to climate change, for mitigating climate emissions, while not stopping Africa from having access to energy in order to be able to support structural transformation and industrialization across the continent. Because in order to grow, we need energy. But we need energy that is technologically appropriate, that is cost optimal, and also viable in terms of allowing us to be able to achieve all the other sustainable development goals, which are as important.
Okay. Professor Kevin Chika Uruma there, Acting Chief Economist with the AFDB.
To us as addressing climate change.
Thank you very much for your thoughts this afternoon. Appreciate your time with us. We will be covering the closing ceremony. It was very insightful what you shared with us this afternoon. And that's the Marketplace. Thanks for watching, everyone. There is more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Do enjoy your weekend.